राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Himatru, can you turn this AC off? The blast is coming, right? आगे वाला होगा शायद. Yes. And I think the exhaust fan is not needed, right? Uh, we always put you on the spot. इसका switch कहाँ होना चाहिए? Hare Krishna. Okay, it's fine if it's not. Wow, you found it. Thank you, bro. So, would anyone like to volunteer to give us a quick recap of what we have discussed? A lot of water has passed under the bridge. 11 verses. तो पहले मैं ऑफलाइन पूछता हूँ फिर ऑनलाइन ऑल्सो.
मत करना.
Yes, anyone? Yes, you would like to volunteer? Hmm. Hmm. Okay, application point of view. So last time we discussed verse number 10, 11 and 12, right? We discussed these three verses. No, 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10. Yes, we discussed 8, 9 and 10. Yeah, so with the 9 and 10, it was Vidya and Avidya, understanding of Vidya and Avidya, and we saw that there are these two types of Vidya and Avidya, and both are leading to nescience. And we saw different types of Vidya, the three types of Vidya, which lead to nescience. So, but overall, like first verse से अभी तक, मतलब if you can shed light on ट्रेन कौन से स्टेशन से निकली थी? ओम पूर्णमुदः पूर्णमिदम. Okay. Ishavasya sarvam. So the first is the understanding the science of the absolute. And when there is science, there is application of the science, the technology, how to live that science. Hmm? So how to live that science was Ishavasya sarvam. Okay. Then what? हाँ प्रभु जी आपका नाम? हाँ शुभ. If we live based on this, then we are allowed to continue to live forever. And the devotees lived happily ever after. Mhm. So, which is actually an innate, earnest desire of the spirit soul. I want to live forever. The immortalized songs, basically, they say that we want to live forever. But then that isn't available and possible. But the key is given that you can live forever if you live with this consciousness. Ishavasam, consciousness. Then, but if you don't live based on that, then what happens? Hmm? Then one goes to the darkest region of nescience and hellish conditions. Okay, so that was the section one. Now, can I request the online participants to share? Yes, Prashant Prabhu. The next section, section
Hare,
two,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.
Danut Prabhu.
Second section, we learned that one result from cultivation of Vidya and other from cultivating of Avidya.
That is the third section.
Before that, we learned about cultivating Avidya gives one result and cultivating Vidya gives worse result.
Okay, so Prashant Prabhu is talking about section
Month
3. Section 3, in which we saw that cultivating avidya leads one to nescience, but cultivating vidya leads one to greater nescience. Hmm? And Prashant Prabhu, can you tell which are the three types of avidyas?
three
Three
types
types
of
of vidya.
Avidya.
Three types of
Yes,
vidyas.
that material world we talked about Mayavadis,
Hmm.
and third one.
So three types of vidyas are materialistic scientists. Hmm. Then what? Karma kandis, smarta karma kandis, and then third is Mayavadis who deny the existence of Krishna or God. So these are the three types of vidya which lead
Vidya.
to greater ignorance. But then there was the second section. What was the second section?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the second section was about Lord is inconceivable. I mean, beyond our understanding.
Hmm.
He's unlimited. Mm.
Who is speaking? Is it?
This is Rani Sharma Prabhuji.
Yes, Rani Sharma Mataji. Yes, you are right. So the second section speaks about that you we have been given a glimpse into that if we live based on understanding the proprietorship of the Lord, then we can live happily ever after. But if we don't live, then there is nescience. But then who is this Supreme Lord? How can we understand him? So then the four verses are about explaining the characteristics of the of that Lord by giving us paradoxical statements. Tadejati, tannejati, taddure, tachantike. That he is far, yet he is very near. He is situated in one place, yet he is all pervading. So all of those contradictory, paradoxical statements were meant to were meant to first of all dismantle our preconceived notions about that absolute truth, and then secondly give us a hint, give us a glimpse into the omnipotent, omniscient nature of that absolute truth. ठीक है, right? So that's how that has been the flow of Ishopanishad. Section 1, 2, and 3. Let me. By the way, this overview and flow of the Ishopanishad is surely going to be a question in the exam, if nothing else. So now everyone is very keenly actively looking at it. नहीं तो passively ठीक है प्रो जी बता रहे हैं उनका रिवीजन हो रहा है. Okay, so this will be a question in the exam that give a flow of the entire Ishopanishad, the 18 verses. ईशोपनिषद 18 वर्ष में छोड़ दिया. सोचो गीता तो 700 वर्ष है अभी आपके पास. आगे गीता मॉड्यूल भी है. So right now we are in the third section, the right and wrong vidya for understanding Ishwar. Hmm, right? So in the third section, this is the breakup. The ninth verse speaks about that cultivating avidya gives one result and cultivating vidya gives even worse result. Hmm. And similarly, verse 10 also says that cultivation of vidya gives, there are different results. And what are the verses? And the final 11th verse says that therefore you have to cultivate both together. Now again, Ishopanishad is full of these paradoxes. एक बोला है कि don't take vidya, don't take avidya. And then third, take both. Vidya is harmful, avidya is harmful, but take both. So, if anyone thought that to clear JEE or IAS entrance exams are tough, to enter the spiritual world is the toughest exam. You have to cross through several doors. So, Parikshit Maharaj is tested thrice in the Srimad Bhagavatam. First, he is tested for his philosophical understanding. Then, he is tested for his eagerness. And third, he is tested for his determination. So, in the sixth canto, uh, Shukdev Goswami tests Parikshit Maharaj that have you been attentive? Are you really paying attention to the subject matter? So, what does Shukdev Goswami say? Parikshit Maharaj asks that people who are suffering in hell, the description of the 29 different types of hellish planets are there. So, Parikshit Maharaj, by nature of being a compassionate devotee, he asks that how can they be delivered? And then the Shukdev Goswami says that by the process of atonement, Gurunam cha Lagunam cha Gurunim cha Lagunim cha Prayashchitam cha Papanam. So he says that if you have committed a small sin, you need to do a small prayashchit atonement, and then that will free you from that result of that sin, so that you will not have to go to hell. And then he says that if you have committed a bigger sin, then a greater atonement. And now, as all of us hear this, we feel that okay, that sounds reasonable, is it not? If someone is going to hell because of certain sin, so you commit atonement and then you will be freed from that sin, right? However, Parikshit Maharaj is not satisfied. Can someone say why? Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Your name I forgot. Nupur, Nupur. Yes, the propensity to sin doesn't go. So he says that just like an elephant may go and take bath in the river, but immediately it comes out and splashes all the mud and the dust all over its body. So similarly, you may go and do confession or atonement, whatever it is. But then immediately when you come back to your routine life, again the sinful activity starts. So it's not a permanent solution. So what is being tested here? Parikshit Maharaj, no, not eagerness to hear. His comprehension, his understanding of the scripture. After basically after speaking half of the Bhagavatam, midterm test. तो मिड टर्म टेस्ट लिया. अभी मिड टर्म नहीं, एक्चुअली इट्स अ क्वार्टर, क्योंकि द भागवतम 10th कैंटो के ऊपर इंटरवल है. 10th कैंटो के ऊपर इंटरमिशन. बिकॉज 10th कैंटो एंड 11th कैंटो आर द मैक्सिमम biggest sections of the Bhagavatam. So practically the quarterly test लिया है at fifth canto, at the end of fifth canto, beginning of sixth canto. And then actually Shukdev Goswami further tells him, okay, I understand the tendency to sin will not go. So therefore, I recommend you another process, and that is tapasya, brahmacharyena, shamena cha, damena cha, tyagena, satya sauchabhyam, yamena, niyamena va, deha vag, buddhijam dhira. So he says that by tapasya, brahmacharya, tyag, cleanliness, purity, all of these things, you will attain liberation from all of these sinful tendencies. And what is the response of Parikshit Maharaj? That yes, the tree of sin will be burnt, but the root will still remain. Hmm? The beach will still remain, because unless the living entity is instated in one's constitutional position, hmm, till the time the Jivatma is instated in one's constitutional position of original position of being a loving servant of Krishna, we are still in an artificial environment. Artificially, we have kept our material desires in the freezer. As soon as the right environment comes, again, those will sprout. Yes. So, therefore, he was tested there twice, for his comprehension and for his discrimination and understanding of the scripture. So, therefore, if we have to go to the spiritual world, we have to pass Ishopanishad Bhakti Shastri exam. No, just not literally the exam, but also our understanding of it. So, therefore, these paradoxical, apparently contradictory statements are given so that they really know हम समझ रहे हैं कि नहीं. नहीं तो एक भागवत सप्ताह में ऐसे तो भागवत कथा में आके सोने का भी फायदा है. वो Gaurang always tells that one person would always come and go to sleep, hmm, in the Bhagavad Katha. Hmm. So the कथाकार would say, hmm, आ गया क्या, बैठ गया क्या, सो गया क्या, like this, he would tell to this person. So I think one day उसके घर पे चोर आ जाता है. तो ये अभी पूरी कथा में इसने यही सुना होता है, आ गया क्या, बैठ गया क्या, जा रहा है क्या. तो अभी when the thief comes, in his sleep he is murmuring, आ गया क्या. So then the thief gets alarmed कि what is happening, is he seeing me, he seems to be fast asleep. हम्म तो बैठ गया क्या, क्योंकि वो चोर डर के बैठ जाता है, बैठ गया क्या. फिर चोर चुपके से जाने लगता है, तो जा रहा है क्या. The thief runs away. So there are benefits to just even be asleep in the katha, but there are other benefits which we can derive. So, dear devotees, these tests are there. As we have been discussing, Siddhant Bali hai, Chitta na karah alas. Let's not be complacent in trying to understand the deeper imports of these scriptures, because it's not cheap. It's not cheap in terms of Siddhant, it's not cheap in terms of sadhana, right? The prayojan that we have been promised and offered is very, very exalted, is very mm, um revered. But then to attain that prayojan, to attain that goal, the path, the sadhana and the siddhanta is also very, very profound, right? So, yeah, I think you all are now little bit more pacified. So one result is attained from Vidya, another result is attained from Avidya, and both are condemned, right? So let's see. We discussed, we saw this already. Hmm. And just a recap. So these are things like I'm just unraveling these concepts. The deeper import of this is that in the material world, both positive and negative, the so-called positive and negative in the material world are both negative, right? Because the happiness and distress of this world are both negative. When you are sitting on the table interacting with happiness, the distress is sleeping in the bed, ready to wake up and come and replace the happiness, right? There are two sides of the same coin. So, what people consider as good luck or bad luck, good fortune or bad fortune, they are actually two sides of the same coin. And in many cases, the good luck, the so called good luck and good fortune of this world, is more degrading than the bad fortune, misfortune. Because the misfortune that arises, that many times may awaken us to question our ways of doing things. And the spiritual sense, positive and negative are both positive only. We discussed that union and separation from the Lord, they are both actually positive, and in one sense, separation from the Lord is a greater impetus for uh, uh, for becoming more serious, for becoming more eager for the Lord, right? And therefore, in the spiritual sense, Vipralambha counts higher than Sambhoga. Hmm? So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us the rasa of Vipralambha bhav, right? And talking of success and failure in the material sense are both failures. Because ultimately you have to start, even Einstein has to start from ABCD. He cannot come and say, अरे भाई ये ABCD क्या सिखा रहे हो, E इज इक्वल टू MC स्क्वायर पता है मुझे. बोले MC स्क्वायर कुछ नहीं होता है, पहले ABCD सीखो. Of course he won't even remember what is that equation that we are scratching our head to understand. But that's how material vidya, or material avidya, they are both in that sense equally redundant, in the least. Success and failure in the material sense are both redundant, whereas success and failure in the spiritual sense, are both success. Can someone give an example, substantiate this statement with an example? Hmm. Okay. Bali, Rebol. Let's clap for Prabhu. Your name, Prabhuji? Kanhaiya Prabhu. So Kanhaiya Prabhu has given a very, very wonderful example that externally speaking, Bali Maharaj failed to give the three steps, in the sense that he gave two steps, and after that he was being condemned by everyone. That even Lord Vaman told him that you were boasting that you are going to give me three steps of land, and you are telling, why are you asking just three steps of land? You can ask something more. You have come to a great king, the Lord of the entire, 14 planetary systems. So he was being condemned by everyone, but actually, that was an opportunity for him to completely surrender himself. So yeah, externally speaking, he might be a failure in the sense that he lost all of his kingdom. Externally speaking, the Pandavas might be considered a failure But then what is Kunti Devi praying? Vibhada santuta shashvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsat apunar bhava darshanam. Hmm? That let these calamities keep coming. Who will pray like this? Unless one knows that in the spiritual sense, success and failure, happiness and distress are both positive. Because whatever brings us closer to Krishna, that is positive. Right? Hmm. Hmm. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. So even Bhishma Dev example, actually their scriptures are replete with such examples that for a devotee, whatever may happen, it's a perfect s- orchestration of the Lord for the devotee to come closer to him. For Arjuna to win the battle of Kurukshetra was the perfect thing needed for him to serve the Lord and develop that thicker relationship with the Lord. And for Bhishma Dev to fight from the opposite side and be defeated was the best way to glorify Bhishma Dev, which is counterintuitive. The logic of this world can never explain that how someone who is so righteous is fighting from the side of the vicious. Hmm. So पहली बात तो ये है कि how can a devotee be defeated? Many times we feel that a devotee should never be defeated. Krishna है ना साथ में, right? When you have Krishna with you, when you have the power of Krishna with you, how can you be defeated? But Krishna doesn't act based on stereotyped ways. Krishna will see, I am not interested in whether my devotee wins or loses. You may lose the match, but you may lose the battle, but you should win the war. We are looking at winning the battles. A war is consisted of many, many battles. We are thinking that maybe, I want to win this battle. Krishna says, no, I want to win the war. And what is the war? War against Maya. And in that war against Maya, we may lose one battle, we may win another battle, right? Externally speaking, there are many devotees who have had fall downs. Hmm? But that fall down was the perfect thing needed for them to come closer to Krishna, to overcome that weakness, that anartha, right? So you have example of King Indradimna, who was a devotee of the Lord, but then committed an offense and became an elephant, Gajendra. So was it a victory or a defeat? It was a defeat. It was an inauspicious thing, is it not? Well, for a devotee to take birth as a elephant, for Bharat Maharaj to take birth as a deer, hmm, Chitraketu Maharaj to take birth as a demon. So devotees many times ask कि प्रभु जी for devotees ये life next life back to godhead होगा ना? प्रभुपाद ने बोला है अभी हम कर रहे हैं इतना मुश्किल से 16 माला ये वो मुंबई में, हम्म तो बैक टू गॉडेड तो जाने होगा ना? वी डोंट नो. ह्यूमन फॉर्म तो मिलेगा, वी डोंट नो. व्हाट इज कृष्णा's प्लान फॉर अस? What will be the next station? We don't know. But the destination we surely know. कृष्णा ने आपका अल्टीमेट डेस्टिनेशन का टिकट निकाला है. बीच में वाया वाया कहाँ से लेके जाएंगे, that we have to leave to Krishna, right? So apparently what may appear to be a defeat, what may appear to be a failure, what may appear to be a fall down is not. Those considerations don't matter in the life of a devotee. So the Ishopanishad um, is you know um, awakening us to this thing that don't meddle with the materialistic conceptions of good and bad, positive and negative, success or failure in your spiritual life. Because in the spiritual life, the entire code is written by Krishna, right? Operating system ही अलग है, right? If you have a Windows and you get a Mac computer, then अरे इसमें ये बटन इससे मतलब you find that there are different buttons and the operating system is different. It acts in a different way. So when we come to bhakti, the operating system changes. The operating system is operated by the Supreme Lord. Whereas in the material sense, the operating system is based on the three modes, right? So whether it is Chitraketu Maharaj becoming Vritrasur, whether it is Bharat Maharaj becoming a deer, whether it is Gajendra becoming Indradyumna Maharaj becoming a uh, elephant, or whether it is Parikshit Maharaj who is being cursed to die in 7 days. It is so confusing that how can a devotee who is grandson of the Pandavas, so dear to the Pandavas, can be cursed to die in 7 days, right? Will is the Lord not protecting the devotees? अगर परीक्षित महाराज की रक्षा नहीं हो रही तो हमारी क्या होगी, right? So Ishopanishad is inviting us कि relax. Krishna is going to take care of you, but not at your terms, but at his terms. Hmm. The ultimate goal will be assured, but the path, just take a free ride. Hmm. It might be a roller coaster ride. It might be a ride which you full of uncertainties and ambiguities. But then without that, what is the fun? Hmm. Otherwise, there's no adventure in life, right? Then you are just going through the routine. But Krishna wants the devotees to go through adventure. He says, just be assured that I am going to take you to the right place. है ना? So in the example of Bhishma Dev also, so we were discussing that how success or failure. So first of all, we have difficulty digesting how can a devotee fail, or how can a devotee have a setback or a fall down or a reversal or a inauspicious externally situation. Hmm. But in Bhishma Dev's life, first of all, of course, he failed. But the other thing is he had to fight from the side of adharma, right? So someone who is so dear to the Lord, why does he have to be in such a toxic environment? Now, this is a question which many of us also ask. प्रभु जी ये जॉब में मुझे ऐसा टॉक्सिक एनवायरनमेंट में क्यों रहना पड़ रहा है? So if your environment is toxic, then think twice. What was the toxic environment of Bhishma Dev? But that was the environment which Krishna needed Bhishma Dev to show to the world, so that we all have a little bit of we are pacified कि अगर देखो भीष्म देव ऐसे एनवायरनमेंट में रह के धर्म को फॉलो कर सकते हैं तो probably I can also. So Krishna has a plan and a purpose behind everything. So Jatayu failed. Jatayu failed in saving Mother Sita from the hands of Ravan. But then that failure is the greatest victory in the eyes of Lord Ram, because it is the sincerity of effort which counts for the Lord. So all we are trying to say here is that the path that we have come upon, we have stumbled upon by some good fortune, is so glorious, is so auspicious that there's only success. Hmm. Apparently, it might appear to be a failure, but it is actually a success. And therefore, Bhagavatam, Uddhav Gita, Lord Krishna says, Dhavan nimilyavan netre na patet na skhalet iha. That इस भक्ति के पथ पर आ गए हो ना, तो आप ये मत देखो कि आगे खड्डा है, खाई है, कुछ नहीं है, बस आंखें बंद करके भागो आगे। बिकॉज इट इज, देयर इज गारंटी ऑफ सक्सेस। यू जस्ट बी ऑन दिस पाथ एंड आंखें बंद करके भी भागोगे। जनरली यू आर traveling, you always need to be alert that might not take a wrong, turn. Because if you take one wrong turn, then you end up, later on taking a detour, and after 20 kilometers you come back. बट भक्ति का पथ ऐसा है कि आप लेफ्ट लो या राइट लो, कि कीर्तन में बैठूं कि कथा में बैठूं, बोथ आर पॉजिटिव। भागवतम पढ़ूं कि लेक्चर सुनूं, बोथ आर पॉजिटिव। तो वॉट एवर ऑप्शन वी हैव बीन गिवन, सेवा करूं कि प्रचार करूं, so anything that you do on this path is absolutely positive, right? So that's how uh, this path is so auspicious. Nahi asya shiva pantha. That's what in the sixth canto, I think that same section where Parikshit Maharaj is being tested, it is mentioned that इससे ज्यादा auspicious path हो ही नहीं सकता, क्योंकि इस path में सब कुछ positive ही है। There is no scope for anything negative. Make sense? Are you all happy with being on this path? But then the dangers of the other path are also showed. So just in case you are in two minds, just in case there are doubts, then the horror chambers are there. that 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 if you even take up the path of these vidyas, materialistic scientists and philosophers, karma gandhis, smartas, mayavadis, we discuss all of these things. So to be in ignorance, basically, uh, someone who is not well versed with materialistic science, hmm, actually they are better off in life. They have greater peace of mind. Otherwise we are in pieces of mind. We discussed that boatman story last time. So actually someone who is illiterate, uneducated has better survival abilities, right? Otherwise what is happening is that um, you know our mind is weaponized against our own self. The greatest problems in the world today, whether it is crime, whether it is stress, whether it is conflicts, it is all, these are all creations of a very very educated mind, hmm, educated with materialistic vidya, leading to greater conflicts. बच्चों को अच्छी vocabulary आती है, छोटे बच्चों को, toddlers, they don't have any vocabulary, they don't have any, but then does everybody love them? Yes. And now what we do, we go to Oxford, Cambridge and बहुत अच्छी बड़ी vocabulary से ले क्या करते हैं हम? We're fighting with each other like cats and dogs, right? So that's how ऐसा we are not denying or decrying कि भाई education होना नहीं चाहिए. If we basically, the point is that we need to understand the purpose of education, and then whatever we need to do to survive in this world, that is uh, of course needs to be done. But then there are these non-theistic scientists. They have knowledge about matter, but they claim that they have the highest knowledge. But then the atheistic scientists, they are in ignorance. They claim to be a knowledge and they condemn the real knowledge as ignorance. So that is the highest form of avidya, which is masquerading in the name of vidya, right? Which is in the mask of vidya is a greater avidya. Similarly, materialists and mayavadis में क्या difference है? Materialist, they consider the counterfeit note to be real. They consider this material body which is counterfeit to be real, and the mayavadis, they consider to the real to be maya. that Lord, when he appears in in his various incarnations, they say that this is a form created by the modes, right? So that is a greater form of avidya. Make sense? ये क्लियर है कि हाउ मायावादीज मतलब दोनों अविद्या है. Those the materialists, that is also avidya, and mayavadis, that is a greater avidya, because the avidya of materialist is limited to their own body, to their own form, but the avidya of mayavadis extends to the form of the Lord, right? Okay, so the 10th verse also we discussed. um, yeah, basically which says that one result from culture of knowledge, another obtained from culture of science, and we discussed these 18 qualities or 20 qualities. Somewhere it is mentioned 18, somewhere 20. But in the 13th chapter of the Gita, from 8th to 12th verse, Krishna mentions that these are the 20 criteria which determine whether you are learned or not. Because education is meant to awaken these qualities, right? So the degree, if Krishna were to give degrees, he would rank based on these qualities. And we saw this also, and then we finally read, recited this Vidyara Vilasi. So half an hour in revision. Okay, now we'll recite the 11th verse. Vidyam cha yas tadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyayamritamashnuते. विद्यां च यस् तद्वेदो भयं सः अविद्यया मृत्युं तीर्त्वा विद्ययामृतमश्नुते. So mrityum tirtva, one can cross over mrityu and attain deathlessness. How? So only one yaha can learn the process of nescience vidyam and avidyam and vidyam, nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side. Saha can transcend tirtva, the influence of repeated birth and death, mrityum, and enjoy ashnute, the full blessings of immortality, amritam. So tamsoma jyotirgamay astoma samadgamay mrityurma amritam gamay. So how to do the mrityumra amritam gamay is by cultivating both विद्या एंड अविद्या. तो आप बोलेंगे अरे प्रभु जी, तो मतलब मटेरियल एजुकेशन, मटेरियल साइंस का भी अच्छा हमें नॉलेज होना चाहिए, मायावाद का भी नॉलेज होना चाहिए, है ना? और स्मार्थ कर्मकांड का भी नॉलेज होना चाहिए. इन तीनों का नॉलेज होगा देन आई विल गेट अमृतम अश्नुते. डू यू ऑल एग्री? दैट्स व्हाट इज मेंशन्ड ना. Only one who can learn the process of nescience, avidyam, and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death, mrityum, and enjoy the full blessings of amritam, immortality. So avidya और विद्या हमने देखा, gross materialistic enjoyment, that is avidya. विद्या में क्या क्या आ गया? The scientific education which helps us exploit the resources of material nature very very sophisticatedly. That is one form of vidya. Second form of vidya is the Vedic karma kandi processes by which one can invoke the blessings of the devatas so that one can enjoy in heavens. That is the second form of Vidya, and the third form of Vidya is the Mayavadi, where how to become one with the Supreme. So ये तीनों cultivate करें तो मिल जाएगा अमृता अश्नुते, then we'll get moksha. Yes or no? How many of you say yes? तो overhead question जा रहा है. That's what the verse says. How can you contend the meaning of the verse? Yes, Mataji. हाँ, तो विद्या एंड अविद्या, हमने विद्या के तीन फॉर्म्स बताए. अविद्या तो ग्रॉस मटेरियलिस्टिक प्लेजर्स वाला है, इग्नोरेंस. तो ये दोनों हम कल्टिवेट कर लेंगे तो हमें मिल जाएगा ना अमृतम, कुछ एमालगमेशन ऐसा करके. ओके. यस, दिस इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. Okay, so Prabhu is saying that, Kanaya Prabhu is saying that once you get bhakti, so all of these are intermediate steps, and ultimately only when you get bhakti then you get liberated. Yes, ultimately only by bhakti you can muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. Only when we are instated in our swarupa, then there is permanent amritam ashnute. बट देन हाउ डू वी एक्सप्लेन दिस, क्योंकि हमने विद्या और अविद्या की डेफिनेशन दी है, और इसमें बोला है विद्या और अविद्या दोनों को कल्टीवेट करेंगे तब जाके हमें, तो क्या भक्ति प्राप्त करने का पूर्व, लाइक प्रीरिक्विजिट, इज इट टू कल्टिवेट मटेरियलिज्म, टू कल्टिवेट मायावाद, टू कल्टिवेट परा विद्या? यस. सो वी आर piecing things together. So the three of them, their answers, and like Mataji said, Mataji's name, Arushi Mataji said that to know what not to do is also important. To know what is the wrong path, as Edison says that I failed 1,000 times, but actually that brought me closer to the right way of creating the light bulb. So, but I think that's a very very arduous way of attaining success. So to try out all the wrong ways and then by experimental knowledge, so that, yeah, but at least we know that this is a wrong path. At least that knowledge should be there. But then, as she said, she said Paravidya. So we need to cultivate Paravidya. So Prabhupada, if you see in the purports, all of these purports, Prabhupada says there is real Vidya. Because Srila Prabhupada doesn't leave anything to our crazy imagination. क्योंकि अगर आप ईशोपनिषद के इस फ्लो में जाओगे, क्योंकि ईशोपनिषद is talking of paradoxes and contradictory, concepts. So if someone just goes with this, they might get lost and confused. So Prabhupada holds you by the hand. ये छोटा नन्ना मुन्ना राही है. So इसका हाथ पकड़ के नहीं लिया तो इतना in the whole traffic he might get just caught up and hurt. So Srila Prabhupada, all through the purports, he's never actually allowing you to sink into these paradoxes. Srila Prabhupada purport में हमेशा बोल रहे हैं ये ठीक है, ये अविद्या है, लेकिन there's a real vidya. Although it has not been disclosed, but Srila Prabhupada from the beginning only he's saying that there's a real vidya, that is bhakti. Bhakti yoga is there, by which the ultimate knowledge of the Lord and surrender to the Lord. So that is the real Vidya. And that Vidya will lead to Amritam, to deathlessness. So ultimately it's cultivation of that Paravidya, the real Vidya. But then why it is mentioned? Someone has raised hands on in the online. Yes, you can. एक second.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So, Prabhuji, you asked the question, so I just want to give my view that like we are in this material world because we have avidya in us.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, if we take the path of bhakti, first avidya will come out, like wish come out, and then we can taste the amrit of
Hmm.
bhakti.
Okay, so Renu Mataji has given another interesting insight that when we practice bhakti, the first initial phase, what happens is anartha nivritti, the wish, hmm, the poison of materialistic conceptions, desires, they come out. Hmm. And then after that, we develop nishtha, ruchi, asakti, etc. So the first is we have to contend with our anarthas. Hmm. So first of all, there is unconscious incompetence that we don't even know that we are in avidya. We don't even know that we are in ignorance about our true identity. Someone heard in a class that you are not this body. And he asks, so if I am not this body, then whose body I am? It's so difficult to comprehend that something beyond the body. This is what I came as, and this is what I'm supposed to be. Is there anything other than this? So, first of all, when you come to the path of bhakti, we first of all realize that what I am not. I'm not the body, I'm not my mind, I'm not my likes and dislikes, right? So, all of those things we steer clear of. Hmm. So, in that sense, yes. In that sense, this makes sense when it is said that you have to cultivate both Vidya and Avidya. So these verses of the Ishopanishad, yes, Mataji. Hmm. Yes, so that's why I'm saying Srila Prabhupada is Mahavadanyaya. So what we need to understand for doing our Hare Krishna, for sticking to our sadhana, Srila Prabhupada will make sure that at least you get that. Whether you get the philosophical terms, meaning and of the verse or not, Prabhupada will make sure that at least you get the conclusion. So any purport that you read of Srila Prabhupada, any paragraph of the purport, you see that Srila Prabhupada is very systematically commenting on words in the verse. So which word do you think Prabhupada is commenting on? Amritam. The word, like the first section of the purport where Srila Prabhupada is saying that Hiranyakashipu wanted to attain immortality and then he was killed by Narsinghdev. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that okay, people are looking for Amritam. I have an example, a case study of someone who wanted Amritam, but he tried for that Amritam by performing austerities to increase his material power. So someone tried to get Amritam by increasing his avidya. Mhm. It was a admixture of Vidya and Avidya. He was doing some tapasya, but with the desire of conquering over the universe. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us a case study that how not to mix Vidya and Avidya. So therefore, there are two things. Means this is my way of looking at, the Bhaktivedanta purports and understanding of the scriptures. So Srila Prabhupada has a mandate of manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita, that in this Kali Yuga, we are short lived and we have very low attention span, and we are very little least inclined in spiritual life. With all of these considerations, Srila Prabhupada has to give us the message. So therefore his purports have a sense of urgency कि भाई तुमको intellectually समझे कि नहीं, at least he has to get his point across that this is the conclusion. So at one level of reading Srila Prabhupada's purport is just to get that point, the conclusion of the scriptures. What is the conclusion of the scriptures? That आराध्य भगवान व्रजेश तनया तद्धाम वृंदावन राम्यत कांची काचिद उपासना व्रजवधु वर्गेनया कल्पिता श्रीमद् भागवतम प्रमाणम अमलम तत्रादर न पर श्री चैतन्य, हाँ, प्रेमा पुमर्तु महान श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु मतबिदम तत्रादर न पर. So this is the conclusion of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhant. Aradhya, who is supposed to be worshipped? Bhagavan Vrajesh Tanaya. Aradhya is not Brahman. Aradhya is not Paramatma. Aradhya is Bhagavan. And Bhagavan, what form of Bhagavan? Vrajesh Tanaya. Nandanandan Shri Krishna. And where? In Dwarka, in Mathura? No, in Vrajbhumi. And then how to worship him? Vrajavadhu, following in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan. And then on what basis are you saying this? Srimad Bhagavata Pramanam Amalam. Prema Pumarto Mahan. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us this conclusion that attaining love for the Supreme Lord, who is Vrajesh Tanaya, is the ultimate perfection of life. And this is not my opinion. This is not your opinion. It is the opinion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Shri Krishna himself. Right? So Srila Prabhupada will make sure that at least you get this. So one level of reading the books is to get this. At least the conclusion that I should not get entangled in material life. I should follow the four regulative principles. I should perform sadhana bhakti, the 64 limbs of bhakti. ये हमने capture किया. And the urgency which Srila Prabhupada writes, that human form of life is very rare, time is very limited. All of that urgency is basically our subsistence. एक बार दाल रोटी खा के पेट भर गया, उसके बाद में आइसक्रीम भी है क्या, थोड़ा कुछ पकौड़ी भी है क्या, कुछ चाट भी ला सकते हो क्या? So Prabhupada is dealing with people who are malnourished, who are on the verge of death, spiritual death. तो उन लोगों को प्रभुपाद ऐसे नहीं बोलेंगे वेट, थोड़ा वेट करो, I'll big make a very very grand big feast. डाइजेशन ही नहीं है उसके लिए. There's such a sense of urgency. The Srila Prabhupada makes sure that you at least get the basics. Don't become Hiranyakashipu. Right? And then now it's not that our reading should be at par with someone who has just come to the path of bhakti. Someone who has come to the path of bhakti from where basically प्रायण अल्पायुष सभ्य मन कलौ अस्मिन् युगे जना मंद सुमंद मतयो मंद भाग्य उपादता. So who's disturbed, who is very very restless, doesn't have time for spirituality, उसके लिए वो एक snapshot is enough to save their life. But for us, it is a responsibility for us to also understand the scriptures systematically. So we understand the message, we understand the conclusion, but we should also understand the development of the message. That systematically, how logically one point and then above that second point and the third point. Because the difference between a Madhyamadikari and Uttamadikari is that the Madhyamadikari understands the scriptures but cannot explain to others. And an Uttamadhikari not only understands the scriptures and can differentiate between right and wrong, but he can also explain to others why this is right and this is wrong. And for that, we have to, have our neurons fired in the brain to understand this. So, make sense, Mataji? Thank you. So, there are two levels at which we should understand this, cultivating both Vidya and Avidya. So, probably three levels. First is uh, that it is not that the admixture of material science plus Mayavad plus Karmakand will ultimately give us liberation or perfection. No, that's not what is meant. What is meant here is two things. One is we should have awareness of what is avidya. That at least we should not be so gullible and so mm, uh, kind of ignorant that we walk into any satsang, we walk into any association कि चलो थोड़ा let us go to this this kumar, this kumari, brahma kumara जो भी है, right? Different मंदिर के यहाँ लेफ्ट जाओगे राइट जाओगे you will find different paths, but at least you should it is not that everything that is spiritual is good. वैसा नहीं है. So that classification, that hierarchy has to be understood. That is, this so-called spirituality is greater avidya. So in that sense, cultivation of understanding of avidya is important. Otherwise, we might be fooled, we might be misguided to hear spiritual uh, discourse from someone who is having materialistic desires or someone who is having Mayavadi conceptions. Yes, so that discrimination is important for us. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if anyone wanted to present any poetry to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would first have to get it approved by Swarup Damodar Goswami. And there was once, does anyone know that pastime? Hmm? So there was one Bhagwan Acharya and his brother or someone had come and he had written a nice poetry on Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he brought it, wanting it to be shown to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Swarup Damodar Goswami read it. Now, while all the other devotees, when they read the poetry, they were little bit gullible and like in the sense not gullible but appreciating, very nice poetry. But then Swarup Damodar Goswami, he could with very incisively, he scanned it and he said, "This is Mayavad," because it is saying that that Lord in Jagannath, that Lord in the body of Jagannath, has come out in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So is Jagannath's body and Jagannath different? No. So he could actually trace that Mayavadi trace. So therefore, we at least need to know what is avidya. Otherwise, we might be fooled and misguided. So that is the one level of seeing that why we need to cultivate both avidya and vidya. Similarly, in the pastime of Mukunda, there's a Mahaprakash Leela in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, where all the devotees were being given uh, like mercy by Lord Chaitanya. They are being given different darshan by the Lord of their worshipable deity. So Murari Gupta gets the darshan of Ram and he sees that he has got a tail because Murari Gupta is Hanuman, right? So all the devotees are getting darshans and they are getting the mercy of the Lord. But Mukunda, devotees are asking, what about Mukunda? Why are you not calling Mukunda? And Lord said that he cannot get my mercy. Why? Because just as with enthusiasm he comes here, with the same enthusiasm he goes to other satsangs where they discuss Mayavad philosophy. Mayavad bhashya sune hai sarvanash. So Mahaprabhu said that therefore he will not get mercy. And when the devotees told Mukunda, he was heartbroken. But then he asked, can you ask Mahaprabhu, when will I get mercy? Mahaprabhu said, after millions of lifetimes. And hearing this, he became so enlivened. He started jumping and dancing. And then Lord said, his eagerness is the price, is basically so wonderful. Then Lord called him immediately. But a lesson for us is that if we have these tendencies to not be able to discriminate between the right vidya and the avidya, then we might slip into ignorance. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. Um, so terminology, Mataji, there are different terminologies. So here, when we say avidya, avidya refers to gross materialistic ignorance, hmm, which is basically identifying with the material body and the pleasures of the body as all in all. Now, when we speak of Vidya, Vidya can also, like when we say Para Vidya and Apara Vidya, वो एक क्लासिफिकेशन अलग था. वो क्लासिफिकेशन किसके लिए था? जो वैदिक स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं, श्रुतिज एंड स्मृतिज, they are divided into para vidya and apara vidya. Para vidya, which refers to transcendental knowledge of the soul, atma, paramatma and bhagwan. And aparavidya refers to dharma, artha, kam, that how to live in this world. So uske liye there are dharma shastras, there are all of these upavedas, and even in the Vedas there's a description of performing the karma kandi rituals, right? So those are aparavidya, right? But here, when in this reference, in this context of para vidya and apara vidya, in these three verses, here the context is avidya to definitely refers to gross ignorance. Vidya can refer to materialistic science. Vidya can refer to karma kandi rituals, which are basically which are inimical to the path of bhakti. So even it's not that we reject karma kand or we reject the varnashram duties, but what we are rejecting is those karma kand or varnashram duties which deny or minimize the path of bhakti. That is avidya, in the name of vidya. And the third form of vidya, in which actually is the greatest avidya, is mayavad, because maya aparita jnana, that they might have grand philosophies, they might have grand philosophical expositions, but actually that all of that is um, taking one away from one's proclivity for devotional service. So, these are basically terminologies. So that is the first. एक हमने ये देखा कि विद्या और अविद्या के लिए पहले हमें at least we should know that what avidya is, otherwise we might slip into avidya. So that discrimination should be there. Now the next aspect we will see. I hope something is making sense, if not everything. Okay. Vidya and avidya need to be cultivated simultaneously. So I'm just going to, make it little simple. So there is high BP and low BP. लोगों को हाई बीपी होता है, and then it is it is dangerous sometimes, right? If the BP shoots to, 170, 180, 190. Hmm? So chest pain, fatigue, headaches, severe headaches, ये सब हो सकता है ना हाई ब्लड प्रेशर में. तो क्या करें, लो ब्लड प्रेशर करा लें, वो अच्छा होगा क्या? लो ब्लड प्रेशर में you might get syncope and you might just become unconscious, right? So if high blood pressure is bad, is low blood pressure good? No. So that is also unhealthy, right? So यहाँ पे जैसे विद्या न विद्या का बताया है कि अविद्या इज बैड, बट विद्या इज इवन वर्स. तो जैसे हाई ब्लड प्रेशर इज बैड, बट लो ब्लड प्रेशर कैन बी इवन वर्स. थोड़ा इन अवर regular parlance. Okay, it is when you get fever, high fever, high temperature, 104, 105 degree Celsius, degree Fahrenheit, then it is an emergency. But then low temperature, low body temperature, when the body temperature drops below 90, 97, 96, 95, 94, that is also equally a medical emergency. राइट. एंड प्रॉब्ली एक्चुअली जैसे बोलते हैं हाई ब्लड प्रेशर का फिर भी दवाई है, लो ब्लड प्रेशर का दवाई नहीं है. किसी को लो ब्लड प्रेशर हो जाता है तो ऑल दे कैन डू इज गिव यू सम इलेक्ट्रोलाइट्स एंड यू नो थिंक and to eat something, right, and hoping that you will recover. Yes. So even in medical terms we can understand that it's not that if high blood pressure is bad then low blood pressure would be good. That might be even worse. This lady, Iman Abdul, so her weight was 500 kg. So Egyptian woman. Now obesity is bad. It's not healthy. But then there are news of people going into so much fasting to reduce weight that what happens, that you know they collapse. Right? Of late there have been many news of this. So therefore, good health is not going to extremes. Physically speaking, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, both are unhealthy. High temperature, low temperature, both are unhealthy. More weight, less weight, both are unhealthy. What we need is the right weight, right temperature, right blood pressure to be healthy. So similarly, spiritually also, uh, it is the same principle applies. And that's why Vidya and Avidya both are condemned. और ये दोनों क्यों बोला गया है कि cultivate Vidya and Avidya both? It's like saying cultivate high blood pressure and low blood pressure both. Cultivate high temperature and low temperature both. Basically telling there is a middle path. Maintain balance between both. And how it happens, we will discuss. Abhi, is there a glimmer of light of understanding this cultivating both Vidya and Avidya? The human mind has a tendency to go to extremes. The bhoga extreme or tyaga extreme. The karma extreme and the jnana extreme. So the human mind has a tendency to either be fully involved or be fully irresponsible, right? And both have been condemned as diseased condition of the soul. And therefore, when it is said Vidya and Avidya, cultivate both Vidya and Avidya, it is meant to say that arrive at a golden mean between the two. There is a golden mean, golden path between the two. Okay, by the way, Aristotle had came up with a concept of golden mean, where he says that human mind has a tendency to go towards extreme, and we often see that sometimes mm, uh, when we have certain, personality type. So someone who is, say, even conservative or liberal. Some people have a conservative mindset. चीजें ऐसा ही होना चाहिए, जैसे पुरातन काल से ट्रेडिशंस है वैसा ही होना चाहिए, ये 1 2 3 4 करते दे करना ही चाहिए. एंड देन सम पीपल आर फुल्ली लिबरल, दे क्वेश्चन एवरीथिंग, ये क्यों वो क्यों, राइट. सो इफ द पेरेंट्स generation is conservative, the children, the generation is ultra liberal, the Gen Z generation. और उनके probably, right, the parents might be wondering कि क्या चल रहा है, everything, all the values which they grew up with, all of those values just go for a toss. But both those conservative and liberal, they are basically coming from a conditioned mind, right? So somewhere there is a golden mean between the two. So let's see, जैसे someone is like cowardice. Cowardice means कायरता. कायरता एक दोष है. Rashness, rashness means, to pick up a quarrel anywhere for anything, nothing. मतलब रास्ते चलते किसी का कॉलर पकड़ लिया, क्या से बोला तूने. So if कायरता, if someone slaps you and then you say ठीक है, एक और मार दो, इस पे भी मार दो, that's foolishness. But then बिना बात के किसी को दो लगा दो, और वो बोलते हैं कि मोटा देख के डरियो ना, पातर देख के मारियो ना. ऐसा एक कहावत है. कहते हैं कि ऐसा मत सोचो कि कोई मोटा है तो उससे डर जाओ, और कोई पतला है तो यू यू नेवर नो, राइट. सो बोथ आर basically harmful. Do we agree? So courage is not rashness. Courage is actually doing, like basically showing your courage, showing your strength where it is needed, right? Similarly, generosity, ki is between, there's miserliness. Miserliness मतलब so stingy कि जिस चीज का जरूरत है उस पे भी पैसा खर्च नहीं करेंगे. और एक्स्ट्रा वेगेंजा मीन्स कि बिग बिलियन डे सेल में बिलियन 1 बिलियन का पैसा उड़ा दो आप, right? So somewhere generosity, or like the right use of wealth, that comes in between. Ambition, there is one extreme is to be very lazy, another extreme is to become very greedy. But to have the right kind of, to measure and see what is your potential, and to live up to your potential, neither being too lazy nor being too crazy, but somewhere in between, to realize your full potential. So we see that human beings have a tendency to go towards extremes, because to be at the extreme is comfortable. You can just hide yourself in that extreme. But to stay balanced is tough. To stay balanced requires endeavor and effort. To be, on either of extremes is very easy. So, so basically that applies in the sense of bhog and tyag. So sometimes we are in the bhoga extreme, and then when we get frustrated by the bhoga, then the conditioned soul goes toward the tyaga extreme. But if we think about it, both are rooted in selfishness. Why I am into bhoga? Because I want pleasure and enjoyment. But then when all my plans for pleasure and enjoyment get frustrated, then I just, you know, uh, just chuck that off and jump into त्याग. छोड़ दो घर बार, चलो हरिद्वार. सब छोड़ दो. सब मोह माया है जी. मतलब that's how, if you talk to people, uh, they'll start with, आपने सब कैसे छोड़ दिया ये, मतलब आपको आईआईटी का डिग्री, मम्मी पापा ने कुछ कहा नहीं, फिर ऐसा सा, फिर बोले, फिर लास्ट में कन्वर्सेशन हाउ इट एंड्स, हाँ वैसे तो सब मोह माया ही है, मैं भी सोचता हूँ कभी कभी क्यों मैं इसमें फंसा हूँ, आपके जैसे मैं छोड़ दूं क्या. So you know what happens? You know, the initial conversation started with they being very perplexed. How can someone, leave this bhoga, and ends with, anyways, there's nothing in bhoga. It's good to do go to tyag. But they don't want to come at the golden mean of selflessness. And that was the dichotomy of Arjun. Arjun had to fight the battle where he had to contend with the the, the challenge of um, you know fighting with all of those attachments. He wasn't fighting with relatives. He was fighting out with his attachments. So one extreme was ki chalo, we are going to take a revenge, avenge all the atrocities done by the Kauravas. So we are going to fight these adharmic people. But the other extreme is, let me leave all of this and go to the forest. And Krishna said, that is easy. Going to the forest is easy. But then that is not your dharma. Dharma means to find the path of golden mean, which is based on selflessness, which is based on Krishna's will. That if Krishna wants bhoga, if Krishna wants me to engage in my varnashram duty, I will do that. If Krishna wants me to leave everything, I will also do that. But the pivot for making choice in life is no longer whether I like to do it or I don't like to do it, whether it is pleasurable or whether it is painful. Because bondage or liberation are both based on selfish consideration. I want to enjoy means bhoga. I want to get liberated means tyag. Again, I never went away, right? The I is always there, that I want to be liberated. So unless one graduates to Krishna, what do you want me to do? And that's the third dimensional path of bhakti. Karma and Gyan or Bhog and Tyag, they polarize one to either of the extremes. You enjoy, and when you get frustrated with people, when you get frustrated with uh, job and society and politics and everything, then you want to wholesale give up everything and go to Tyag. But that's artificial, because ultimately it's a pendulum. It will keep swinging from one side to another. But the third dimensional, rising higher, basically determining one's choices based on what is Krishna's will. No longer my own selfish considerations. Yat karoshi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi dadasi, yad tapasyasi kaunteya, tad kuru madarpana. Hmm? So yad ashnasi, whatever you eat, and whatever tapasya you do. So whether I am doing a tapasya, it is for Krishna's pleasure. I am enjoying some nice prasad, that is also for Krishna's pleasure. So there's no longer selfish considerations. So that is the path of bhakti, which actually brings together the two opposing banks of karma and jnana, the two opposing banks of bhoga and tyag. Karma and jnana, they always like uh, they are always at heads with each other. There's always a conflict between karma and gyan, the path of karma and the path of gyan. And it's quite intuitive. When you ask, when someone takes responsibility of a particular task, what happens? They become attached to it, right? Say, suppose um, you have a company, right? Someone, someone starts a company, which means there's a lot of endeavor, a lot of labor, a lot of enterprise. You have put your hard, kind of investments there. You are working 20 hours a day to raise that company. So what has gone there is you are working so responsibly, you're working so hard, but then along with that responsibility comes attachment. You get so attached to it. And everything should be done like this. Every decision should come to me. No, otherwise others will take a rash decision and all my endeavor will be spoiled. So what happens is, when you take responsibility of something, you become attached. Or the other extreme is to be completely detached, which is basically being irresponsible. So these are the two extremes. Say the Eastern culture is erring or faltering more on the side of responsibility, and the Western culture is erring more on the side of irresponsibility. Basically, there's no attachment. So children at the age of 14, 15, they go out and the parents don't bother. ठीक है, उसका लाइफ है. यहाँ पे मतलब 25 साल का भी हो जाए तो भी you can't take that decision. You have to, do this, otherwise nothing doing, right? So both these kind of stereotypes, they are having selfish considerations. Is it not making sense? Yes. So karma, it allows you to take responsibility, but then you get attached to it. And in Gyan, in the sense that Gyan mark, Western culture को ज्ञान मार्ग नहीं बोल रहा हूँ मैं, but when you just artificially take up the Gyan marg, then everything is Maya. Everything is redundant. There's no point of anything, because this life is temporary, illusory. What is the point of taking any responsibility? You become so indifferent and um, huh? Existentialism, fatalistic है, कुछ फायदा नहीं है, right? So both of these are at loggerheads, but then bhakti can bring both of them together. And that's the beauty of the path of bhakti, which harmonizes both karma and jnana. And the whole message of the Bhagavad Gita is to harmonize both karma and jnana, to have detached responsibility. That Arjuna, Krishna is saying, karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. That you perform your duty, but don't be attached to the result. So that is a principle which is, uh, you know, which you won't find anywhere else. It's only in the bhakti literatures that you will find that both karma and jnana are being synthesized and harmonized. That you can be responsible, at the same time be detached. And the application is so profound. There can be many applications, just couple of them I'll share. Say suppose even they say that after a certain stage, if you have to grow your business further, so for a startup, the startup founder has to be in the office for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. But then if they want to grow their business to, say, medium or large scale business, then they tell him, you now go to office only 4 days a week. And for them, that is, unbelievable. If I don't go, how will things happen? But no, things will not happen if you go there. Because if you want to scale up, then you need to learn to delegate. You need to learn to let go. You need to learn to empower. Because so far you have been keeping everything in control, but then that is becoming an obstacle and impediment for things to actually scale up. So you need to empower people, you need to create trust, and then it will grow. So even in business parlance, you need to let go and be detached, right, for growth to happen. Right? Even as for parents, till a certain stage, as Chanakya Pandit says, that uh, that for the first 5 years, just shower love. From 5 to 15, discipline them. But then after the age of 16, you need to let go. Give the children freedom. So that letting go is important even in parenting. right? So the Bhagavad Gita gives us the right balance. The Bhakti Marg gives us the right balance between responsibility and detachment. So the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the definition of Bhakti Yoga is given. यदृच्छया मत कथादो जात श्रद्धास्तु यह पुमान न निर्विन्नो न अतिसक्तो भक्ति योगो अस्य सिद्धिदा. That Bhakti Yoga begins when one develops a taste for hearing about the glories of the Lord. Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sang. That when someone feels that there is, um, you develop a taste for the messages about the Supreme Lord. You feel like coming and sitting and hearing Krishna Katha. So if you get a glimmer of that faith, glimmer of that taste, Bhakti Yoga has begun. And what will be the external symptoms of that development of Bhakti Yoga? Na nirvinno na ati sakto. One is neither too detached nor is too attached. The path of Karma Yoga, one is too attached to one's family, deha patya kalatradeshu, one's one wife, one's children, one's land, property, etc. One is very attached. The path of Jnana, one completely gives everything up. Very, very, very indifferent and disinterested. But the path of Bhakti Yoga, one is neither too attached nor is too detached. One sees what is needed to please Krishna. So therefore, it is Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means that the consideration of whether I like it or not is not worthwhile. The consideration is what will please Krishna. And therefore, then there one has the um, freedom to exercise that free will, to choose to fight all like Arjuna, or 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 choose to just stay away from that particular situation. So that is the path of Bhakti Yoga. And there's a nice incident from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Basically, Srila Rupa Goswami, he's writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And one of the verses that he writes is this one in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukhasyatra katham abhyudayo bhavet. Where he says that the bhakti sukha, all the path, the bhakti will not awaken in the heart of a person in whose heart the witches of bhukti or mukti are basically haunting. So Vallabh Bhatt, who was a great scholar, he came to Rupa Goswami to meet him on the banks of Yamuna, and he saw this verse and he asked him, actually Rupa Goswami asked him that I am writing this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, can you know, just review and tell me whether I am writing it properly. So he looks at this verse and he says that how can you call Mukti a Pishachi? How can you call Mukti a witch? It's a very strong word, right? To call mukti. Mukti is very glorified. The path, the liberation, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. To call moksha or mukti a pishachi, a witch, it's a very, very strong statement, right? So he was taken aback and he said, probably you should think about it again. You should not call mukti as pishachi. I understand bhukti or desire to enjoy material gratification, that is can be a pishachi. But how can mukti be a pishachi? So what are your thoughts on this? Huh? So Rupa Goswami, he immediately said that, you know, with all of his good nature, he immediately said, yes, you are a senior Vaishnava, you have guided me, I'm so grateful, I'll correct it. But then Jiva Goswami was listening to this conversation, and then he later on quietly walked up to Vallabhacharya, Vallabhat, and he said that actually you found some mistake, some flaw. Can I make a proposition to you? He said, yes, of course. He said, you see, what Rupa Goswami has written is Bhukti Mukti Spriha. The desire for bhukti, the desire for enjoyment, and the desire for mukti, they have been called as witches, as pishachi. And they are both equally an impediment to the path of bhakti. So it is not mukti which has been condemned. It is the desire for mukti which has been condemned. So if someone is obsessed with the desire for liberation, then they will not be able to surrender to Krishna wholeheartedly. Because then their ultimate goal is not Krishna or Krishna Prem, their ultimate goal is liberation. I just want to get out of here. And for that, if this Krishna consciousness helps me, I'll use it. So rather than having Krishna as the goal, Krishna becomes the means to the goal of liberation or mukti. And when Vallabhat heard this explanation, then he immediately, offered supplications and praises to Srila Rupa Goswami. So this is the subtle, nuanced understanding of the path of bhakti, where the apparent tension between karma and jnana, the apparent tension between uh, bhog and tyag, they are all synthesized for a higher purpose of what will please Krishna, right? And I'll conclude with this verse by Narad Muni, where he says to not Narad Muni. This is first canto 15 chapter. नैष्कर्म्यम अपि अच्युत भाव वर्जनम न शोभते ज्ञानम अलम निरंजनम कुतः पुनः शाश्वत अभद्रम ईश्वरे न चार्पितम कर्म यदपि अकारणम. So here it is mentioned that definitely the fruitive activities, the fruitive labor is condemned. But Naishkarmyam, the Naishkarmyam which is devoid of fruitive activities, fruitive desires, just cultivation of jnana, just cultivation of Atma realization, that is also condemned. Why it is condemned? Because that is again not aligned to one's real constitutional nature. It is still artificial. Even the Brahman realization is artificial because there the active nature of the soul is not fulfilled. You are basically going into from being in the sweltering heat of the sun, you go into the deep fridge and go into hibernation mode where you are not experiencing the heat of the sun, but at the same time you are not spiritually active. It's just for the time being you have hibernated yourself and insulated yourself from the material desires, material entanglements and attractions. But then the real nature of the soul is not being manifest. And therefore, the real nature of the soul is mentioned as muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. That when we reinstate ourselves in the nature of seva, of devotional service, where we engage our mind, senses, rishikena, rishikesha, sevanam, bhakti ruchyate. When we again activate ourselves, not for material enjoyment, but not for our pleasure, but for Krishna's pleasure. That is the path of bhakti. So, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tarabali Kam, Krishnendriya Priti Ichha Dhare Premanam. That in the material realm, there's a lot of activity. But that activity is meant for my own sense enjoyment. But in the spiritual realm, there's even more activity, but that activity is meant for satisfying Krishna's senses. So this is the journey of the soul. So what people think as spirituality is to cut off all material activities, and that is considered as the path of Gyan. But the ultimate manifestation of Gyan or Vidya is to reinstate the soul in spiritual activities, and that's the real Vidya. Yes, so this verse from the Bhagavatam says that whether someone is a tapasvi or someone who is on the path of karma or on the path of jnana, like different examples are mentioned. Someone who is dhanapara, who is in the path of karma yoga. Someone who is a tapasvi, who is on the path of jnana. Someone who is on the path of ashtang yoga, manasvino, mantravidha. Shemam na vindanti vidaya arpanam. No one can attain perfection without the path of bhakti. Right? So the ultimate vidya, the real vidya which leads to all the ultimate results is the path of bhakti. So, so we saw two different reasons why one has been told to cultivate both vidya and avidya. One is that we should at least know what is avidya so that we can stay away from it. Then the second is that we understand that karma and gyan, they are basically two polarities. They are bhog and tyag, they are two extremes. That conditioned soul has a tendency to either be on the, take responsibility and be attached, or be indifferent and detached. Right? But one needs both. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Krishna tells Arjuna, you have to fight, but at the same time in consciousness of me. है ना? So that is the golden mean, which is the path of bhakti, where there is responsible action along with selfless, um, devotion, both of them. Okay, any questions? Hmm. So, so detachment here in the sense that again, detachment or attachment on the material plane are both condemned, but on the spiritual plane, when we consider people as spirit souls, then we can be attached. And it is said that mm, satam prasangat mama virya samvido, that we should hanker for association of devotees. Uh, actually there's another verse from fifth canto, Rishabh Dev, he's saying that Yoshitam Sangi Sangha, how it starts is Mahat Seva Dwaram Ahur Vimukte Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. Mahantatste Samachitta Prashanta Vimanyava Suhrida Sadhavoye. He says that you should get attached to Mahat. You should get attached to devotees. But we should stay detached and we should stay away from those who are materialistic. So yes, we have to be attached because that's the nature of the soul. But being attached to devotees, being attached to Krishna, that is what is needed. Hmm. And then there's another, Kapil Dev says another verse in the third canto, which is very pertinent, that the same attachment, sa eva sadhushu krito moksha dwaram apavrita. How does it start? Sa eva sadhushu krito moksha dwaram apavrita. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanah kavayo vidu sa eva sadhushu krito moksha dwaram apavritam. So sanga, attachment, is ajaram pasham, is a shackle. What kind of a shackle? Unbreakable shackle. So the attachment to people and things in this world can be an unbreakable shackle which is binding and entangling us. Hmm? But the same tendency for attachment, when it is directed spiritually, when you develop attachment not based on the body but based on the soul, when we develop that, then the entire world becomes your family. Then you feel love, care, affection for everyone. Of course. Yes, yes. So in that sense, uh, we see the potential, because everyone is a devotee of Krishna. Some realize it, some don't realize it. But we understanding that, we serve them with the desire, with this prayer to awaken their latent devotional service. Thank you. Arey, please, Mata. Mm. 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 Yes, but you might, Mataji, your name, Sharmila Mataji has asked a question. So we'll take a couple questions from the online devotees also. So Sharmila Mataji has asked a very nice question that um, when we come to this movement, we come burnt and blistered from the the threefold tapa of material existence, and we are so like sure that I don't want to come back to this material world. I just want an escape route. And we see the path of bhakti. We come and feel the cooling, association of devotees, the the whole environment, and then we develop that anticipation and hankering. When will I go back home, back to Godhead? So is it that cultivating and keeping that desire in the heart, could that be an impediment on uh, our perfection, on the path to perfection? So Mataji, two things here. So ब्रह्मांड भ्रमिते कौन भाग्यवान जीव गुरु कृष्ण प्रसादे पाए भक्ति लता बीज. So the desire for liberation which you are having and the desire for liberation which a Gyani is having, they are genetically different. They are genetically different seeds. You may not uh, be able to differentiate, but somewhere the seed that you have received, the seed of bhakti that you have received, it is inbuilt in it that that you want liberation because you want to go back to Golok to serve Krishna, to be with Krishna. You don't want to go, you just don't want liberation to be out of this material world. You have a future for yourself. You see a future for yourself. It's not, there are two things. You can walk away from something and you can walk towards something. The the Gyanis, they just want to walk away from material life. We are walking towards Krishna. Hmm? So so our focus is not our past. Our focus of getting out of the world is because we are looking forward to a very blissful, meaningful service situation. in the spiritual world. So we are the focus is for the Gyanis, it is getting out from here, and the focus for us is to get in there, right? So that you like that is the beauty of the seed which we have been given. But of course, while we are practicing bhakti, we should also consciously be aware that if I want to go and serve Krishna there in the spiritual world, I should not run away from service here in the material world, because I should not consider service as one of the adhyatmik, adi daivik, adi bhautik, adi sevik klesh. No, we are going there to serve Krishna, and that's what we are looking forward to. Make sense? Thank you, Mataji. So actually, this brings a very important point, which is the concept of Jivan Mukta. In Bhakti, there is understanding of Jivan Mukti. The Gyanis, for them, Mukti means after the death. Because this body is a symbol to them of being entangled in a situation uh, which is undesirable. But for a devotee, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. For a devotee, every moment he can be fully Krishna conscious. For a devotee, liberation is not somewhere in the future, liberation is here. Prabhupada said, you are all liberated. It is just that you have not realized. That's what Srila Prabhupada would tell to his devotees, because what are you going to go to what does it mean to be liberated? To be liberated means to be situated muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. To be situated once in one's constitutional position of being a loving servant of Krishna. So it is not a change of dress ki ek gopi dress पहन के gopi dots लगा के now I am liberated. No, Kamsa became a Kamsini gopi. He got a gopi dress, he got the form of a gopi, but then he was frustrated about it. There's that story in Barsana where Kamsa had come and he became a gopi, and he pleaded to Radharani to you know uh, liberate him from that liberated condition, right? So for us, it is not that the external change of dress that means liberation. For us, liberation is here and now. The greatest fortune, the greatest possibility for the soul's blossoming is here and now. We are just sitting together, devotees, discussing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's holy names. And this is what we will be doing in the spiritual world. So we are actually living in an oasis in a desert. So we can celebrate every moment we are here in this material world. We can be singing, jumping, dancing in joy every moment if we realize what we have gotten ourselves into. So actually, that's the great fortune that we have. Yes. So we have concluded. Just one question, if from the online someone wants to ask. Those who want to leave the meeting, they can leave. Anyone in the online? Muskan Mataji has asked, Bhakti means doing what Krishna wants us to do. How do we come to know what does he want us to do? Well, Krishna has stated in the Bhagavad Gita what he wants us to do. So, Ma manusmara yuddha cha, he says, Yat karoshi yad yasnasi yad juhosi dadasi yat man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So he has sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. So he has given ample instructions to us. So we can begin one by one, take small steps, and And if we really want to understand in our situation how to apply, then Guru Sadhu Shastra. We read the Bhagavad Gita, we understand what Krishna wants us to do. Then we also uh, listen from the spiritual master, spiritual masters discourses, lectures, we listen. And if there are interactions, that also with the shiksha gurus and the diksha gurus. And then the sadhus, the devotees all around us. By seeing and observing them, we can learn so much. That by seeing their sincerity in devotional service, oh, this devotee comes for Mangalarti, this devotee does so much seva, this devotee is doing so much nice preaching. So by seeing them, we can understand what Krishna wants us to do. So the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra are always there to help us be on the right path. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Shri Ishopanishad ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.